The 10 Lessons of a Betrayed Man. David sat alone in his apartment, staring at his phone. His ex-girlfriend, Emily, had just sent him a long message, begging for another chance. She swore it was a mistake, a moment of weakness, something that didn't mean anything. But David knew better. He took a deep breath and thought back to everything he had learned in the past few months, the 10 reasons why a man should never go back to a woman who cheated on him. Trust is like glass. Once broken, it's never the same. David remembered the way he used to trust Emily blindly, but after her betrayal, every "I love you" felt empty. Even if he took her back, he'd always question her late-night texts, her sudden change in plans, and every friend she mentioned. Could he live like that? Number. If she did it once, she can do it again. Emily had promised that it was a one-time mistake, but David knew reality. Cheating is a choice, not an accident. The same circumstances that led her to cheat the first time could happen again. Why risk the heartbreak twice? A real woman respects what she has. Loyalty isn't hard when you truly value someone. If Emily had truly loved and respected him, she wouldn't have done this. She didn't slip. She chose to betray him. Love shouldn't feel like a job interview. David realized that if he took her back, he'd feel the need to constantly prove himself, being more attractive, more exciting, more romantic, just to prevent her from straying again. Love shouldn't feel like a competition. The same pain would haunt him forever. Every time David would look at Emily, he'd see him, the other guy. Every kiss would remind him of her betrayal. Would he really be able to sleep beside her without replaying the lies? Number. Women who cheat lack self-control. David didn't believe in excuses, alcohol, loneliness, fights. None of those were reasons to betray someone. If Emily had no self-control, then why should he trust she had it now? He'd be lowering his own value. David was a loyal, committed man. If he took Emily back, he'd be sending a message that he tolerated disrespect. A strong man doesn't beg to be treated right. He walks away from anyone who treats him wrong. Other women would see him as weak. David knew that how he handled this would define him. If he forgave Emily, other women would see him as a man with no backbone, someone they could manipulate. But if he moved on with strength, he'd attract a woman who valued loyalty. She didn't feel guilty until she got caught. The most painful truth? Emily only apologized when she had no other choice. If she hadn't been caught, she would have continued lying to his face. That wasn't love. That was deception. He deserved better. David stared at the text one last time, then deleted it. He wasn't the same man who had begged for answers. He was stronger now. Emily made her choice. Now David made his. He grabbed his jacket, walked out the door, and smiled. Because somewhere out there was a woman who would never put him in this position, and he wouldn't waste another second on the one who did. The conclusion: walking away is the ultimate power. As David stepped outside, he felt lighter. The cold night air brushed against his face, but instead of shivering, he embraced it. He wasn't just leaving behind a toxic relationship. He was stepping into his future. For weeks, he had wrestled with doubt, wondering if walking away was the right decision. But now he saw things clearly. He realized that staying with someone who betrayed him wouldn't heal him. It would destroy him. A relationship should be built on respect, loyalty, and trust. Emily had shattered all three. Somewhere out there was a woman who would never put him in this position. Someone who would love him with the same depth and devotion that he gave, and he owed it to himself to wait for her. As he walked down the street, he looked up at the city lights, feeling free. He wasn't just surviving this heartbreak, he was thriving. Because the strongest move a man can make is refusing to settle for less than he deserves. And that's exactly what David had done. Somewhere out there was a woman who would never put him in this position. Someone who would love him with the same depth and devotion that he gave, and he owed it to himself to wait for her. As he walked down the street, he looked up at the city lights, feeling free. He wasn't just surviving this heartbreak, he was thriving. Because the strongest move a man can make is refusing to settle for less than he deserves. And that's exactly what David had done. Somewhere out there was a woman who would never put him in this position. Someone who would love him with the same depth and devotion that he gave, and he owed it to himself to wait for her. As he walked down the street, he looked up at the city lights, feeling free. He wasn't just surviving this heartbreak, he was thriving. Because the strongest move a man can make is refusing to settle for less than he deserves. And that's exactly what David had done.